Okay, B'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we're going to be learning the daf for Shabbos Kodesh, Shabbos Parshas Kiseitze, and today Shabbos' daf is daf Kuf Yud Daled. The Gemara is handling a shayla about Isser Chalil Isser when you have Chelev Tzazamen Mit Basa B'Chalav. So what did the Gemara previously say? The Gemara previously handled the shayla like this: about Ein Isser Chalil Isser, or we do hold Ein Isser Chalil Isser, we don't hold Ein Isser Chalil Isser. Know that the chaylev is going to be bottle or the basa b'chalav is going to be bottle. Like, how is that going to work? So this is the second line on the top of Kuf Yud Daled Amud Aleph. That's where we're going to be starting from today. V'iked Amri, there are those who say akule alma nabishul kule alma lepligi delaki. If cooking chaylev with milk, everyone agrees that a person does get malchus. Since the isser of chaylev does not extend to cooking it, so there's no pre-existing isser against cooking chaylev to prevent the isser against cooking chaylev with milk from taking effect. I mean, there's no isser lechatchila that the isser should be chalon. So keep ligi achila. Where do they disagree with respect to getting malchus for eating the chaylev that was cooked with milk? Manda Amrei Loike, the one who said that he doesn't get malchus, says so. The hain isser chal isser because the isser does not take effect upon a pre-existing isser. Manda Amaloike, the one who says that he gets malchus, holds fakerta lohachi avke rachmana lachila b'lashon bishul. That's for this reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Rachmana, the Torah, expressed the isser against eating basa b'chalav in terms of cooking to indicate that the isser against eating is dependent on the isser of cooking, meaning that it'll be also even when you cook it. Kevin da bishaloki, since one gets malchus for cooking the chaylev together with milk, achila namiloki, he gets malchus for eating them together as well, which is very interesting because if you would cook chaylev, then I don't know that you wouldn't get malchus b'chlal, but you're not going to be being over the ikr isser of chaylev. Or you could say that one holds one case and one holds another case, and they're not arguing b'chlal. And how does that work? I mean, both agree the one who cooks chaylev and milk is chayav malchus, and both agree the one who eats chaylev cooked with milk does not get malchus. And the sheet is presented to not have a stira. Why? Because the Manda Amar who says that malchus are given for chaylev with milk was referring to a person who cooks them together, in which case there's no pre-existing isser to prevent the isser against cooking basa b'chalav from taking effect. And the Manda Omar, who said that one does not get malchus, on the other hand, was referring to a person who eats a mixture of chaylev and milk, regarding which the pre-existing isser against eating chaylev prevents the isser against eating basa b'chalav from taking effect. So here's a good ha'ara, which I think we were about to go to, that since there's no mention of malchus for the isser of chaylev, the Gemara here is dealing with a case where he was given hasra regarding the isser of chaylev. Since malchus are only given to a person who first had hasra, he's not mechuyev malchus for eating chaylev. Nevertheless, since regardless of whether he's chayav malchus, he has been over on the isser of chaylev, regardless of whether he was given the hasra or not. Even if he was given hasra by basa b'chalav, he still wouldn't be able to get malchus for basa b'chalav because the pre-existing isser against eating chaylev prevents the isser against basa b'chalav from taking effect upon the isser of chaylev. So the Gemara now is going to have a hard time with this because the story of basa b'chalav does not apply to chaylev with milk because it doesn't take effect on a pre-existing isser. The Gemara is going to take issue with that. Meisvei, we learned in a brayso, hamavashal b'mei chalav potter, a person who cooks meat with whey. What's whey? Whey is, like little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet eating her curds and whey. Whey, W-H-E-Y, is water of milk, which is whey is the watery part of milk that separates from the curds during cheese making. Okay? So, a mavashal b'meichal of potter, a person who cooks meat together with whey is not chayev basar b'chalav. Although the whey is considered as milk lahalacha, as we'll see, it's not considered milk as enough milk to be chayev for the isser of basa b'chalav, because implies milk in the form that it was at the time it was extracted from the mother. Now, the implication of the term potter is that cooking this mixture is nevertheless asur midrabanan. It's potter aval asur, not that it's going to be potter or mutter. Obviously, that's so because if you'll say, you eat cream cheese, you eat butter, there's definitely isser in eating that together with fleishiks. We haven't used the term milchiks or fleishiks yet when we were discussing, but I'll go upon it. So again, hamavashal b'meichal potter, a person who cooks meat in whey is not chayiv malchus for basa b'chalav. Dam shebishla b'chalav potter, a person who cooks blood with milk is not chayiv for basa b'chalav either. The dam shebishlai, or hamavashal dam, is that the issue of the brisa is regarding the blood that was cooked rather than concerning the one who cooked it. Presumably it's actually referring to one who eats the mixture. Okay, so seems like it's a shaila in the gears of the Gemara. Of the bones, the sinews, the horns, of the hooves that one cooked with meat, potter is also potter from basa b'chalav, because they're not considered a gedi, which refers to the meat of the gedi. Regarding basar kachim that became pigel or nicer or tami the one cooked with milk, chayiv, he is chayiv. Why is he chayiv? As we mentioned previously, it would appear that the brayta is actually addressing the halacha pertaining to the person who eats the mixture that was cooked together rather than one who cooks it. So since eating the mixture is going to have the isser of not eating basar b'chalav as well as the isser of eating kachim which are asr, can be clearly established that from this brayta that the isser of not eating basar b'chalav takes effect on the pre-existing isser of kachim, which would be Isser Chal al Isser. So Zak the Gemara name, Hai Tana Savar Isser Chal Isser. Tzachah Machlekes, as we saw previously in the Gemara, and this Tana particularly holds that an Isser could take effect on a pre-existing Isser. Mamela, that's not a kasha. Hamavashal b'meichal of parter. The brayta says that a person who cooks meat with whey is not chayiv. Mesaila the Reish Lakish. This brayta would bring a raya to a statement of Reish Lakish Tetanan. We learned in the Mishnah regarding something being mukhshel kabel Tuma. This is the Mishnah Machshirin Parak Vav. The Torah says that food becomes susceptible to contracting Tuma only after coming into contact with water or another liquid that's categorized as mashka, which we mentioned many times. There's 6 beverages: wine, blood, oil, milk, dew, and honey, in addition to water, and they are called mashka. So, Zak the Mishnah Azeh, this is the Mishnah Machshirin. Mechalav harein kechalav. Whey is considered like milk regarding Tuma. So, it makes food that comes in contact with it, mukhshel kabel tuma. The status of milk as a mashka is learned out from Sefer Shoftim, which says the story of Yoel who killed Sisra after giving him milk to drink. In the pasuk steht dort, "Vatiftach esnoid hachalav vatashkehu," and she opened the flask of milk and she gave him to drink. The word vatashkehu, which is from the same root as the term mashka, teaches that milk is halachically regarded as a beverage, meaning it's not from a pasuk in Chumash, but it's not a pasuk in the Nach. Moichal harehu kishemen, and olive water is considered like oil. Moichal or moichal, sometimes we have it in the Gemara, is the liquid that oozes out from the olives while they're being piled up and left to soften in a vat prior to the pressing. Harehu kishemen is considered like oil, and it's considered a food that comes in contact with it. Mukhshel kabel tuma, as oil does, as we learn from the pasuk Mishtei Shemanim, a beverage of oil, which is a pasuk in Yeshaya. So I'm Reish Lakish during the Mishnah says they only taught the Mishnah that whey is considered like milk with regard to seeds and other food making things mukhshel kabel tuma. But in regard to the milchigkeit of cooking it together with basa b'chalav, the whey is not considered like milk, because basa b'chalav implies milk in the form that it was at the time it was extracted from the mother. That's where we have the why legabe tuma, it's going to be considered chalav, but legabe basa b'chalav, it's not going to be considered chalav. Tana Rabban, we learned to the brayta b'chalevi. The pasuk says you should not cook a gedi in the milk of its mother. From this, I only know that it's usher to cook the gedi in the milk of its mother, in the milk of a she-goat. From where do I know that it's also to cook in the milk of a cow or a ewe as well? Ewe, a rachel, that would be a female sheep. Amrit kavachimer, you can say the following kavachimer. Now, even regarding its mother, which is not forbidden from mating with the gedi, her milk is also to cook with the gedi. Then regarding a cow and a rachel, which are forbidden from mating with the kid, is it not logical that their milk is forbidden for cooking with the kid? The Torah therefore says a second time to extend the isser even to the milk of a para and a rachel. Meaning that Torah's repetition of the pasuk b'chalevi teaches us to include the milk of other animals as well. Now this is going to argue on what we saw previously in Kufyud Gimel Amud Beis with Shmuel, who maintains that all 3 mentions of the pasuk b'chalevi are needed to exclude the milk of a zachar, or the milk of a shechted animal, and the milk of an unkosher animal. Rather, he maintains that these 3 are excluded by the simple idea of the Torah's first mention b'chalevi mai. Okay, it seems like there's a lot to see here, but let's move right along. Why do I need a pasuk to teach me this? The Brisa just learned this out from a Kal V'Chomer, so why do I need to rely on the pasuk? I wouldn't be able to figure it out on my own with a Kal V'Chomer. So Rav Ashi says, a pasuk is needed because it can be said that the Kal V'Chomer is flawed at its source. Rav Ashi uses the expression, the Kal V'Chomer is flawed at its source, he attacks the basic premise of the Kal V'Chomer that the Torah is more machmir regarding the harbah of a para and a rachel with a gedi, as evidenced by the fact that the Torah is mating them with one another, than it is about being marbia, a mother goat with her child. So he says it's not true, as evidenced by the fact that the Torah is shechting the mother goat together with her kid goat on one day, while it permits shechting a cow and a ewe on the same day that he shechts a gedi. This is in contrast to instances which the Gemara leaves the basic premise intact and merely rejects the logical conclusion of the Kal V'Chomer by demonstrating from some outside source that the apparent stringency is of no halachic consequence. So me'ikr the dina pircha. They have a Kal V'Chomer as flawed at its source. From where do you get your halacha from? That the milk of cows or rechelim are forbidden for cooking with gedi? Me'imai, from the mother. I mean, not from the pasuk of the mother, but from the mother itself. Since regarding the isser of harva, the Torah is more machmir regarding separating a cow and a sheep from a gedi than it is regarding separating a mother goat from her kid, we can conclude that if the Torah applied basa b'chalav in the lenient situation of the mother goat with her kid, it certainly applies in the stricter situation of a cow and a rochel with the gedi. So to this we can counter, we can say, what comparison can be made to its mother, which is also for shechting it together with her kid in one day, which is Oisev as B'nai L'Sishcha to be Yem Echad. Should you say the same for a cow, which is not forbidden to shecht together with the kid in one day? Since we find that in regard to shechting two animals together one day, the Torah is more machmir regarding separating a mother from its child than it is regarding separating a cow from a different species, from, let's say, the gedi. So your conclusion that the basa b'chalav said by the Torah regarding a mother goat and her kid would also apply to the milk of a cow and a rachel with a kid is no longer acceptable. So therefore the Torah has to say it a second time to extend the isra even to the milk of other animals which are not going to be the gedi, meaning anything that's going to be paros or recheles. Tani Idach, who learned in another brayso, the Torah says you should not cook a gedi in the milk of its mother. From this, I only know that the isra is to cook a gedi in the milk of its mother. Where do I know that it's prohibited to cook in the milk of its older sister goat as well? You can learn this out from a Kal V'Chomer. You might know even if regarding its mother, which enters into the pen with it to be gemaiset from Ma'aseh Behemer Nesri Yomei Bebishul, her milk is forbidden to cook with it. Then regarding its older sister, which does not enter into the pen to be gemaiset any din Nesri Yomei Bebishul, is not certain that her milk is forbidden for cooking with it. The Torah therefore says in the milk of its mother to extend the isser even to the milk of the older sister. So this would seem like a very seemingly nice drasha. What's the issue with it? It's affecting Gemara. Why do we need a pasuk to teach this to us? We could learn this out from this Kal V'Chomer. Zok the Gemara. Rav Ashi says, it can be said that the Kal V'Chomer is flawed at its source. From where do you learn the halacha that the milk of the older sister is forbidden for cooking with it? By means of the Kal V'Chomer from its mother. This will argue that what comparison can be made to its mother, which is also for shechting it together with her kid in one day. Should you say that the same is true for its older sister, which is not forbidden for shechting together with the kid in one day? So since we find that in regard to shechting two animals together on one day, the Torah distances a kid from its mother to a greater extent than it distances a kid from its older sister, so you cannot conclude that since the Torah applies the basa b'chalav to a situation of a gedi and imai, the same should certainly apply to a gedi and its older sister. So this would seemingly seem mistaver. So the Torah therefore says a third time to extend the isser even to the milk of its older sister. So Zok the Gemara like this: now we have found a source for asering cooking a gedi in the milk of its older sister, which does not enter into the dir leis aser together with it to be gemaiset. How do you know that it's also to cook a kid even the milk of its younger sister, which was born during the same year as this gedi was born and didn't yet get gemaiset? So asimi beinaya. So we can learn it up from between the other two jointly. meaning we're going to use a tzad hashava method. The style for demonstrating a tzad hashava is to begin the limud from an individual context, show the deficiency of that limud, and then demonstrate how the deficiency is compensated by a limud from another context, as we will see. Meaning we'll learn it out from A. A is not so great. Well, meaning point B will be that there's some mistake that we find in A, so it's not going to be able to be such a good raya. So I'll show you C, which is something else which can make it work as well. So Asmi Beinaya. So what's the other things? From the two already known isurim against basa b'chalav, and against cooking a kid in the milk of its achaysa gedayla, as follows: Mehei tesi. From which one of the two should the isur against bishul of basa b'chalav? Bishul of basa b'chalav of its younger sister be learned out from. Tesi me'imai. Let's propose that it should be learned out from its mother, meaning by comparing a younger sister to the mother, and saying that just as it's also to cook a gedi in the milk of its mother, so too it would be also to cook a gedi in the milk of its younger sister. If you'll object, so mali what comparison can be made to its mother, which is forbidden for shechting it together on one day? Mishum the isser of oisev esbenai. So let its older sister, whose milk is also to be cooked with the gedi, even though she is not forbidden, mishum oisev esbenai, demonstrate that the milk with meat isser is not tied to the isser against shechting the two together on one day. And if you will then object, what comparison can be made to its older sister, which does not enter the dir to be ma'aser together? So we can say imay techiach. So let its mother, whose milk is also to be cooked with the gedi, even though she does enter into the deer together with it to be gemais, demonstrate that the milk with meat, that the isur basa b'chalav, is not tied to the fact that the two do not enter the deer l'sas. I mean, you can't necessarily compare or bring me a hechacha or a raya to the fact, or from the fact that the nechnas l'deer l'sas, it's irrelevant nekuda. So v'chazaradin, and the argument would repeat. You would go back and forth, and you could object again that a gedi is further distance from its mother than from the younger sister with regarding to shechting it one day, and continue the cycle of arguments and counter-arguments ad infinitum, and it would never end. So what does the Gemara do? So the Gemara concludes like this, we got to thank the Gemara for giving us a mahalach, so we don't have to be busy with this, meaning with going with these arguments that the chazar then. So lo rizeh krizeh, lo rizeh krizeh. In the final analysis, the nature of this one is not like the nature of the other one, and the nature of this one is not like the nature of the other one. Meaning, the nature of the mother is not like the nature of the older sister, and the nature of the older sister is not like the nature of the mother. So, meaning, there are chesrainis that don't match up from one to the other. So what do we do? The characteristic that's common to both of them is the case of a kid in its mother's milk and the case of a kid in its older sister's milk is that it's meat and it's forbidden to cook it with milk. So to bring under the isser the case of cooking a gedi b'chalev its younger sister, which is likewise dealing with meat, and consequently derived that it is also to cook it with such milk. So that's really the tzad hashava that the Gemara goes with, and obviously, things are not done just yet. But if this is so, meaning that no pasuk is needed to aser a gedi b'chalev its younger sister, because it can be derived from the two already known isurim against cooking a gedi with the milk of its mother and with the milk of its older sister. So why do we need a pasuk? We should be able to learn out the achayse gedela also from a tzad hashava, since we already know that it's also to cook a gedi b'chalev yomai from the first mention of b'chalev yomai, and we also already know that it's also to cook a gedi in a cow or used milk from the second b'chalev yomai, as we learned from the Brisa. So we can learn that it's also to cook a gedi b'chalev its older sister through a tzad hashava from the two of them, right? So einachanami zak the Gemara, indeed it is so, and no pasuk is taka needed to include b'chalev to teach me the isser of cooking a b'chalev its older sister. Ela b'chalev yomai lama. So why do I need the third b'chalev yomai? It's needed for the halacha that's taught in the following brayso. B'chalev yomai, the Torah says you should not cook a gedi b'chalev yomai. Only ela b'chalev yomai. From this I only know that it's also to cook a gedi in the milk of its mother. Amud Beis. From where do I know that it's also to cook the meat of the mother herself in her own milk? Meaning cooking a she-goat in milk that was extracted from her while she was still alive. So Amrit Kal V'Chaimer, you'll say the following Kal V'Chaimer. Rabba Makshlei Neser Pri and Pri B'Shchita. Now, even in a situation where a product is not forbidden together with a product, meaning regarding the issue of shechting in one day, which does not apply to shechting two kids born from the same mother in the same day, Neser Pri Ma'em B'Shchita. Nevertheless, the child with the mother is forbidden for shchita in one day. Malkum shenesar pri and pri b'vishul. Then in a situation where the product is forbidden together with the product, meaning the gedi is asa b'chalev yimai, meaning because the milk is also a product, so regarding the isser of bishul basa b'chalav, we're forbidden to cook two products, the kid and the milk of one mother. Any din shenesar pri ma'im b'bishul. Isn't that certain that the product milk with the mother that produced the milk, meaning with the mother that produced the product, is forbidden for cooking together? Therefore, the pasuk says that b'chalev yimai a third time to extend the isser even to cooking the meat of the mother in her own milk. Why do we need a pasuk to teach this to us? The Brisa just learned this out from a Kal V'Chaimer. Amr V'Achdvei Barami said, Mishum De'ikul Mem Masus Ben Susya Achi Pirdi Yechiach. A pasuk is needed for, it can be said, in the case of a horse, the son of a mare, who is a half brother of a female mule, will demonstrate the fallacy of this Kal V'Chaimer, meaning that where a mare mated with a horse and gave birth to a male horse, and then the same mare mated with a donkey and had a female mule, the male horse born to the mare is the half brother of the female mule born to his brother. The phrase "meikir dedina percha" is not used here, for in this case, the logical conclusion of the Kal V'Chaimer is being challenged rather than its original premise. Meaning, mishum dikul memar yirichiach will show you that the Kal V'Chaimer is off. She'aser pri and pri. For in this case, the product, the horse, is forbidden from mating with the other product, which is the mule. Umoter pri ma'em, but nevertheless, the product, the horse, is permitted with the mother, the mare. And why is that? For both the offspring and the mother are of the same species. A mare is a female horse. So here too, although the Torah asks cooking a gidiba chalev, meaning two products are the same animal, it doesn't necessarily follow that the Torah asks a product with the mother cooking milk with the child that produced it. Therefore, the pasuk is necessary to teach us that it's indeed aser. So Zakti, well, like this, maybe it's kein chayav. Hasam zera havu de kagarim. There, in the case of a horse with a mule, the zera av, the seed of a different father, is what caused the isser, not the fact that it's a union of a product with a product that's a primi pri, the parrot ben susia achi perdi echiach. Because if you have a male mule who is a son of a horse, who is a brother of a female mule, will demonstrate this shemoter pri and pri. But in the case, the product is permitted with the product, meaning, being that both are donkeys, so the product is the union of a donkey and a horse, but it doesn't matter. But us, it's still mutter, but usher pri and pri. And the product is usher with the mother, meaning because the offspring and the mother are of different species. If the child, which is the male son, is a donkey, and the mother is a horse, is a full-blooded horse, evidently the deciding factor regarding the isser of this union is the species of the animal as determined by the zera from where it's born. If the animal is being mated out of the same species, the union is mutter. If not, it's usher. So the case of a horse, ben horse, who is the half-brother of a chamor, which may be mated with its mother and not with its sister, so it doesn't prove any chaymer of an offspring over a mother, because the sole determining factor, the only determining factor, is the species of the animal, and it's only also with its sister because they're different species, not because they have a brother and sister relationship. It says bechal nishkein shayches to the union over here that animal siblings should be also for any specific reason. The isra over here is only because it's not the same species. The hainu, that has nothing to do with zara. I mean, it has nothing to do with the zara of whatever it is, but it has to do with the fact that one is a horse and one's not a horse. If one would be, meaning it's not about the siblingship, it's about the speciesship. So, Mamela, the Kal V'Chaimer has not been disproven, and the Gemara is once again confronted with the original question. Why does the Brisa need a pasuk to teach that it's also to be mevashal, basar, b'chalav, meaning the mother in her own milk, when this can be learned out from a Kal V'Chaimer presented in the Brisa? So the Gemara tries another teretz. Ela Marbred Ravina said, Mishum de'ikul memer eved ben shivcha achim mishuchrer tzichiach. A pasuk is needed to aser cooking an animal in its own milk, because it can be said in the case of an eved Kanani, who is a son of a shivcha Kananis, who is a brother of a mishuchreres, demonstrates the fallacy of the Kal V'Chaimer. Meaning, let's give a little bit of background about what we're talking about over here. So, eved Kananis and shivcha Kananis, during their period of their servitude, have a quasi-Jewish status. when they get freed, when they get emancipated, they attain the status of a ger and are considered full-fledged yidden. Now, the union between a yid and a shivche knainis, or a evet kanani and a yid, is going to be also. The Gemara is addressing a case where a shivche knainis had a son and daughter, and the daughter was freed. The son and the mother are both shivche. The son and the mother are both shivche knainis who are allowed to live with each other, while the daughter, who is now a yid, who is also to live with a evet kanani. So this would demonstrate the fallacy of the Kal V'chomer. Why? Also pri and pri. For in the case of product, the slave's son is also to live with the product, the daughter that was freed. Mutter pri ma'im. Nevertheless, the product, the slave's son, is mutter to live with his mother, who's a shivche knainis, because she's the same status as because it's the same. He is the same status as the slave's mother. So here too, although the Torah asks bishul of b'chalevi mai, which are two products of the same mother, perhaps it does not usher the product with its mother, does not usher the product with the mother, meaning cooking the milk with the mother that produced it. Therefore, the Kal V'chomer is no good, and the pasuk is necessary to teach us that cooking a gidi b'chalevi, meaning that the cooking a goat in its own milk is taka usher. So Zakti Gemara is also not a good proof, because Hasam get shechur hu kagarim. There was the shtar shechur given to the sister, which makes her yid, is what causes the slave and the shivcha mishuchreres to be also to one another, not the fact that they're both products of the same mother. Meaning the reason why the son and daughter are also for having relations with one another is not because the Torah asks the mating of two products of one mother, but because she's a yid while he's an evet. So with respect to the basa b'chalav isser, however, the Torah presents the isser of two products with one another in the context of being products as the same mother. So certainly follows as evidence by the Kal V'chomer from the isser of shechting in one day of Isav Espanel Shishcha to be a mechad, that the product with the mother herself is going to definitely be also. So having been doicha Mar Rav Ashi's teretz as well, the Gemara is once again back to its original shiloh. Why does the Brisa need a pasuk to teach that it's also to cook basar b'chalav b'chalevi maiv? And this can be learned out from a Kal V'chomer presented by the Brisa, that for product with a product, we need a kid in its mother's milk is also for cooking together. So product with its mother, milk with the meat of the mother that it produces, certainly also for cooking together. So it's like the Gemara like this, the third attempt. Elam Ravi de Baravin. Ravi de Baravin said, Mishum de Ikul Amemek Kilei Zorim Yechichu. A pasuk is needed to aser cooking an animal in its own milk, for it can be said that the isser against planting klayim will show you that the Kal V'chomer is no good. Sha'aser pri and pri. For in that case, the product is forbidden with the product, meaning seeds of two different species, which are both the product of the same earth, may not be planted with one another. Umutter pri ma'im. Nevertheless, the seed of one type is permitted with its mother, may be planted in the earth, which is its mother. So here too, although the Torah asks b'chalevi mai, two products of the same animal, perhaps it does not ask the product with the mother. Therefore, the pasuk is necessary to teach that it's indeed aser. No, it's also not a good taina, because klum neser pri and pri alal yidei aim. Is there ever a product with a product forbidden due to klayim, if not by means of the mother? The hachiti v'sar b'kadav lemitzeru. Kernels of wheat and barley could be put together in the same container, and they're not aser. So this is not a good objection. It's not a good haichach on the Kal V'chomer. So Gemara brings another raya, another mahalach to try to explain the Kal V'chomer, why the Kal V'chomer the Brisa is no good, and why you need a pasuk that cooking an animal and salt milk with the meat of the mother is that produces. El Amar Rav Ashi Kazak Tazeh. Equal mamalav pri and pri. Kal V'chomer is no good because it can be said, what comparison can be made to the character of a product with a product shekain shnei gufim? They're two distinct bodies. Shall you say the same for the product with the mother, meaning the milk with the meat of the mother that produced the shekain guf echad, which are of one body? It can be said that the isra against combining two items conveyed by the isra basar v'chalav applies only to the combining of products from two diverse sources, and there's no objection to combining two fruits that are the product of one body, right? Therefore, we need a pasuk. The third in the Torah is taka necessary to teach that it's also to cook basar in its own chalav. Okay, but chalevi might, like the Gemara was trying to say, and l'cha'ura, this is the good answer to the question. Rav Ashi said, how do you know that the mixture of meat cooked together with milk is aser? Shenemar, the pasuk says, Lo soichel kol te'eva, shall not eat any abomination. Kol shetiavti lo chareu bebal toichel. The Torah is saying, anything that I have abominated for you, meaning that I have forbidden for you, requiring you to consider it an abomination and distance yourself from it, is encompassed in the Isser of Bal Toichel. So since the Torah teaches us to distance ourselves from Basa B'chalab, the resulting dish is considered a Te'eva. As such, although the Torah asser against cooking meat with milk, it only assers cooking, but does not asser eating such a food. So the Torah's command not to eat a Te'eva teaches that the product of an act asser by the Torah is a Te'eva forever, regardless of whether it was created with an Aveira or not. Hence, even if the Basa B'chalav was cooked by a Katan or by a Goy, in which case the dish was not the product of any Isser, it's nevertheless Asr, since the Torah commands you to distance yourself from these kind of Te'evis. Mainly Ela Ba'achila. From this I know that it's Asr only for Achila Ba'hana Minayin. How do I know that it's Asr for Hana as well? Could Reb Abahu, like Reb Abahu. Let's see if this is also the Gemara in Pesachim. Yep. There's a big sugi in Pesachim that handles on Chav Aleph and Chav Beis and Chav Gimel, that handles where do you know the Isser of Hana from. So this Gemara goes over there as well, and we'll keep it in mind when we get to the other Gemaras as Ras Hashem. The Omer Rebbe Bo said in the name of Rebbe Lozer Kol Makom Shenemar Lo Yochel Lo Soichel Lo Soichlu. Wherever the Torah says in the Torah that you should not eat, you singular shall not eat, or you plural shall not eat. Echad Isra Achila, ve'echad Isra No b'mashma. It's both the Isra against eating and an Isra against being nene from it. Unless the Torah specifies for you that Hano is mutter, as it's specified for you regarding nevela. By saying that it may be given to a goyish, a ger over here is a ger taishav, or sold to a guy. The Tanya we learned in a brayso. The Torah says you shall not eat any nevela. To the ger taishav who is within your gates you shall give it, and that he may eat it or sell it to a guy. From the simple reading of the pasuk, I know only that the nevela may be gifted to the ger taishav, or sold to a guy. How do you know that I could sell it to a ger taishav? The Torah therefore says to the resident who is within your gate, you shall give it or sell it. And for do we know that an avela may be gifted to a guy also? The Torah says you should give it or sell it to a guy. An avela may be given to both a ger taishav and a guy, either through mechira, selling, or nasina, gifting. These are the words of Reb Yehuda. And Reb Yehuda says, and the Torah's words are understood exactly as they are written. Leger ben nasina, ulav kechav b'mechira. An avela may be gifted to a ger taishav and may be sold to a goy. Now, what's this all about? According to Reb Yehuda, the Torah is indicating the exact manner of giving an avela. So there's a requirement to transfer the avela to a goy by means of selling, and gifting would be aser. Now, with the gifting, maybe aser, maybe because of matnas chinam. Taisha speaks this out. Now, Taisha asks that we have a Gemara earlier in Daf Tzadi Gimel and Beis in regard to a Gid Hanasha. In time about Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah earlier Le'el Daf Tzadi Gimel and Beis that a person is allowed to send the guy the thigh of the animal that has a Gid Hanasha within it, and sending it mashma, that you could send it to him for free and not have him pay for it. With Perikol Shah and the Gemara Pesachim and Daf Chav Beis, that sugi that we mentioned before, mashma da asya afilu Reb Yehuda, that sheet is going according like Reb Yehuda. V'yesh loymar, says this answers the tiny bit Tosefta. We learned in the Tosefta in the third parak of Avodah Zarah. Derech Agav, the Tosefta of Avodah Zarah is pretty long. Tosefta, there's lots of interesting things over there. It's good to know. If he was his neighbor, you're allowed to give it to him because it's like you're selling it to him, meaning that it's a good deal and you'll be able to keep the peace between the neighbors. So you shouldn't be worried about it. So the Isra is meant to discourage the friendship between Yidden and Goyim, so Jews will not follow in their ways. A guy, hold on. A guy, a ger taishav, however, is not subject to this issur. In fact, the contrary is true. There's a mitzvah to give it to him as a present and not sell it to him. Okay, this is a whole shmuz in and of itself, but let us continue with our story here in the Gemara. My time, Rabbi Yehuda, what's Pshat? Rabbi Yehuda says it's the Ram Kichsavan. Rameir, he holds that if it should enter your mind that the Torah meant that the pasuk should be understood like Rameir says, that you could give it or you could sell it, and you could read it pertaining to both the Ger Toshav and to the Goy. So Lichter Rechmana, the Torah should write, then the Torah should have written instead, you shall not eat any nevela to the resident, to the Ger Toshav, who's within your gate, you should give it, that he may eat it and sell it to a Goy. Oy Lamali, why does the Torah say oy or rather than and? So we learn from here that it's coming to indicate that the words are to be understood exactly as they're written, and this is how Rabbi Yehuda understands the pasuk. That an avela may be gifted to a resident Toshav, a Ger Toshav, or sold to a Goy, but not the other way around. And Rameir holds you could talk do it the other way around. Rameir Amalach, where Rameir would say to you, "Hi oy," meaning how does Rameir answer this question with what do you do with the word oy? Rameir Amalach, Rameir will tell you, "Hi oy," this word oy was written to grant precedence to gifting to a Ger Toshav over the sale to a Goy. However, both gifting and selling to either the Ger Toshav or a Goy are mutter. Now, what does Rabbi Yehuda do with this? Rabbi Yehuda, what would Rabbi Yehuda respond to that? This that you say that you should gift it to a Ger Toshav, taking precedence over selling it to a Goy, svarahu, you don't need a pasuk for that, like tzarach kra. You don't need a pasuk for that. It is a svara, simple logic. The Ger Toshav, you're commanded to sustain him, and a Goy, you're not commanded to sustain him. Because a Ger Toshav says, you should strengthen him so that he can live with you, which teaches a chiyuv to support and sustain the Ger Toshav, and no such mitzvah is given with regard to a Goy. Accordingly, when faced with the choice, one is definitely obligated to give the nevela to a Ger Toshav rather than sell it to a Goy, and there's no need for the word oy to teach us this. Okay. Fine. And we'll just stop with this. We have Siman Shabbos Chayrej V'Kilei Zrem Oisev V'Sb'nei V'Shiluach HaKein. The Gemara presents a series of challenges to Rav Ashi's Kol Tayeva that we mentioned before, and the Gemara will, go through these different things. Shabbos Chayrej Kilei Zrem Oisev V'Sb'nei V'Shiluach HaKein. Okay, Ad Kan. We will stop over here.